On YouTube, this is your backyard gardener coming to you with a video. It is December the 4th, 2017, and I thought I would come to you just with a video for those who might have the garden season is over. And you might want to have something to do over the winter. Now, what I'm doing is I'm propagating fig cuttings. What I have in front of me are different varieties of figs. Prior to 2016, I had never tasted a fig before. And then I finally tasted one over the summer, and it was absolutely delicious. I fell in love with it, and I want to taste more varieties to see which one that I really like. So at this point, I think I've showed on video about 3 different trees that I have, which was the Chicago Hardy, Rarlette de Bordeaux, and the Celeste. To date, I have over 23 full-grown trees in my shed that I built just for my trees. I really got to do a lot of updating videos because to some of you this might be new. So I have been bit by the fig bug, and a lot of the varieties that I have, a friend of mine that lives here in Michigan also gave me a lot of trees, and then some of them I've propagated from cuttings. Right now I am sitting in front of some cuttings that I had ordered, and this is now cutting season, and this is a Chicago Hardy cutting that I have right here. This is Alma Cody Dawn Nor. And this one is Coral Beach. Now, I've tried the Coral Beach cutting. I love it. I've actually had a cutting, but I was afraid that I might have overdid it and rotted out the cutting. But I haven't tried the Alma. I haven't tried the Cody Dawn Nor. And I have tried Chicago Hardy because I have a Chicago Hardy tree already. But this particular one, I want to get going for my brother because I'm trying to get him into figs as well. Now, there's different steps to propagating. The first step is to get your cuttings. When you order cuttings, you can get them either, well, let me say this. To get a cutting will be a lot cheaper than to try to buy a tree. It just have a different type of value to it, sentimental value, because you've raised this cutting from just a small stick. And it doesn't take long. Now, this cutting, by the growing season, I will probably have fruit this season. Off by the time the growing season come in 2018, I will have fruit. So that's why I'm starting my cuttings now. This is the first step, is you get your cuttings. After you get your cuttings, then you got to find your growing medium that you want to grow in. What I'm going to use is stagnant peat moss, which is this right here. Now, I've wet this down. I squeezed it out because I don't want it to be sopping wet. I want it to be moist. Once I lay my cuttings in there and bury it up under the peat moss, put a top on it, then I'll sit it somewhere in a dark spot, and it'll actually start to grow roots this way. It's the stagnant peat moss way, or you can get some potting mix, Miracle-Gro, whatever you choose to use. You can put it in this cup. You take your cutting, you stick it down in the potting mix, and you can propagate your cutting from there. It really doesn't matter which way is the fast. So let me show you what I have. I have my cuttings. I have my growing medium that I'm going to use. That's the first stage. After you do that, this is what you're going to turn over to. Now, this is nothing but a plastic tote. 2 totes put together. one flipped over the other one here, because it's keeping it moist and it's keeping the humidity inside this particular coat. And as you can see, these I just did yesterday, these cuttings. But as you can see, they're budding already. Once they establish roots, and the reason why I use clear containers, this is nothing but a water bottle. Let me see if I come over this way toward the light. You can start seeing the roots developing inside your container. That's why I like to use clear. Instead of having to pull them out to see if you're getting roots, you can just basically put them in a clear container and you can see the roots growing. Now here, this is a green Ashia. It's a whole nother variety. It's a green fig. Green figs, dark figs, black figs, different varieties. This is another way that you can use. You could just get a simple sandwich bag. Fill it up with potting mix and stick your cutting in there. This particular cutting right here is Leghorn White. And I dated the date that I started it, which as you can see, it was just a couple of days ago. So once you get in this stage and you start seeing those roots growing, then I take it from this tote, the humidity tote, and I harden it off just like we do our plants in the winter going into our spring. We got to harden them off, because if you do it too quick, the little leaves that did start growing will fall off. So you want to just give it a little air, then a little more and a little more until it get used to the temperature in the room setting. So after you go from this stage, you're going to wind up going to this stage, which is right up under my grow light. You can see where my cuttings have started to grow. After you get from that stage, by the time the spring comes, you're ready to either put these cuttings in the ground, or you can grow them in containers, whichever one you prefer. It depends actually on your growing zone. I'm in zone 6B, so green Ashia, Cotydon, nor will not survive here. A Chicago Hardy will survive here. It might die back, but it'll come back every year. So that's the hardy one for my zone, which will be the Hardy Chicago. So if you're thinking about getting into growing figs, I'm telling you, it's the most delicious fruit. It's an addictive hobby, but it's something to do. If you're thinking about getting into it, then I tell you what I can do. If you live in the United States and you want to try your hand at it, give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and personal message me, and I will send you out some cuttings if you're in the U.S. free of charge to the first 5 people that instant message me. It will probably be Chicago Hardy cuttings that I will send you out, and that's a very good, delicious fig as well, and it's a hardy fig. So let me get together, and then I'm going to show you how I just pot up one, or what I do to get these things ready for propagation. So I'm going to start off with my Alma cuttings. Now, there is a right and a wrong way to do these cuttings. Now, as you can see, this right here is a node. And then you got a notch over the top. When you have that big, like a mouth part on the bottom, and a little nose on the top, that's the right side up. But if it was turned this way, where the mouth is on top and the node is on the bottom, and that's upside down. So that means that your roots will probably grow up there instead of down here. I've also taken I couldn't do it on camera because I don't have my tripod, but I also taken my my steps and trimmed, just like so, off the first couple of layers of this cutting on both sides. That's to expose it. Right here, I have some Grow Tech. And this is just, Root Tech. It's organic and it's nothing but rooting gel. I normally use Clonex, but I'm out of that. So this is what I'm using. I'll dip it in there just to get a little of that gel on both sides. Like so. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cutting and I'm stick it right down in that potting mix just like so. That's it. That's pretty much done. This up here, the Stagnum peat moss. Let me see. Got the wrong one. I've already moistened it down. It's nice and moist. I'm going to take these 4 cuttings. And this is a different kind of peat moss, the Stagnum peat moss. This is the longer one. I normally buy the short chopped up one that almost look like a dirt. But it's fine. And all I do is I bury those cuttings. I put the lid on it. And it's very important to keep up with the variety that you're growing. So it's already wrote on my fig. But I'm going to also put a piece of tape up here and write Alma ALMA on the top of there. And I'll probably sit this method on top of my refrigerator. Check it maybe every 3 days to make sure that it's still moist. In about 2 weeks with some cuttings. Some cuttings take a little bit longer. They might take more than 2 weeks. You'll start developing roots. So once you do start developing your roots, that's when you want to put them in your potting mix. Now, you don't want to put them in potting soil. You want to put them in potting mix. Something light and fluffy like this. This is light and fluffy because those roots, when you see them sticking out off of the tree, off your cutting, they're very delicate. So you want to be very careful with them. And like I say, you'll go from this to this to this to that to a nice beautiful tree that I'm going to show you some pictures of some of my trees at the end of this video. So again, if you want to start your fig cuttings, comment down below that you want to. Send me an instant message with your information and I'll send them out to you. Again, this is your backyard gardener saying happy gardening, everybody.